What's going on, guys? It's Aiden with Upper James Toyota, and today I'm going to be reviewing two SUVs. To the left of me, I've got a 2024 Toyota Venza. In my opinion, that is the closest thing you will be getting with a Toyota badge. That is the closest to a Lexus that we offer. I'm going to throw that up against, to the right of me, a 2024 NX350. We're going to take a closer peek, see what's similar, see what's different, and you guys can let me know which one you like better. Now, looking on the front ends of both of these vehicles, we're gonna start with the Venza. So getting down here, I'm gonna tell you a couple of things that are gonna come standard on the front end to a Venza. Standard to start, fog lights, which are nice, your nice LED projector headlamps with LED turn signals, and you're also gonna have front parking sensors. And if you saw one of my previous videos on a fully loaded limited RAV, you'll know that that is standard on a limited and the only RAV that comes with it, versus the Venza, this being a middle package. There's an LE, XLE fits in the middle, and a limited is above that. The parking sensors will be coming standard from Toyota on this exact trim level. Now, if you're looking at the front end of a Venza, this was redesigned in 2021. And in 2021, I think this vehicle looked very, very futuristic and something that we hadn't really seen in any of our vehicles throughout the Toyota lineup. However, now being 2024, it is looking very, very dated in my opinion. I don't think that this has the same pop or wow factor on the road versus some other vehicles that we have. And this is ultimately going to be replaced in the next coming months by a new vehicle called the 2025 Crown Signia. So make sure you guys subscribe so you will not miss that future content on that vehicle, and obviously some comparisons I will do with that vehicle in our lineup. Now, if we're going to be looking over at the NX, I did an IS300 video and talking about a newer Lexus. I actually think that Lexus has done a very, very good job at making the front ends of their vehicle with this massive grille look very, very new, but also kind of keeping that lovely luxury look to a Lexus. And I think they've done a very good job on the front ends of the NX, any of them, but this one being a 350. Now, if I'm gonna look on the front ends here, a couple interesting things. Fog lights are gonna be centered a little bit more to the corners of the front bumper, which I actually think is a pretty cool thing to do on a vehicle. You know, you could see different manufacturers could have fog lights in the middle of the bumpers, sometimes even actually a full strip that comes across the bumper. I think Lexus has done a very, very good job at keeping the lighting very, very situated in a very practical way for any consumers actually driving this vehicle. Now, you pair that up obviously with their new headlights. I love the looks of their new headlights. This in the daytime, the DRLs are the little check mark that kind of comes out and swoops towards both of the wheel wells for the vehicle. And I think they have done a very, very good job at styling the front end of the new NXs. Hey guys, I know you guys are enjoying the video, but please do not forget to like and subscribe so we can become the #1 Toyota YouTube channel on earth. All right, now let's take a closer peek onto the side profile of the NX350. Now, looking at the wheels, I'm gonna say I'm definitely in favor for these wheels. An all black wheel is definitely my #1 choice if I'm going to be picking out what color is going to be on my vehicle. You guys can let me know down below in the comments which one you guys prefer. Now, I obviously think that a black wheel with a black vehicle, it looks good. Sure, it may hide some body lines, but I definitely think the whole color match, it looks really, really good in my opinion. Now, looking at the black, you will be getting 20-inch alloy wheels on this package alone, and I think it actually fits the wheel well pretty well. Obviously, some vehicles on the market, they don't look as filled, I'm gonna say, as some other ones. You could get obviously smaller wheels, bigger wheels, but I think from the factory, Lexus has done a pretty good job, designing this vehicle. Now, the only thing I'm going to be saying on the side of this vehicle that I wish actually changed is going to be this nice gloss black piece here around your wheel well. I think that obviously it looks really, really good and is going to be something I'd take over this, which is going to be this matte black, kind of cheaper looking plastic on the side of your vehicle. I don't really know why manufacturers would go that route to make this a matte plastic. If you're gonna ask my opinion, I think it's just gonna be that if this was, maybe not plastic and actually a metal, obviously it's gonna cost a bit more to replace if anything ever hit it or, or you scratched it against something. But that's the only thing I'm gonna say that I'm not in favor of on the side profile of this Lexus. I think that it just looks very, very cheap versus say a gloss or the actual vehicle to be painted, over the actual metal versus this plastic look. Now, looking onto the side profile of a 2024 Venza, if you guys have seen my previous videos, you guys will know that I'm not the biggest fan of an all silver or a chrome rim. I'm gonna be taking the Lexus rims over this one all day long. Now, talking about that, this vehicle is gonna be getting 19-inch alloy, so 1 inch smaller than the Lexus. So obviously, I still think this fits the wheel well pretty well. Obviously, some other RAV videos and some, entry-level RAVs, and the wheel well looks, it has this massive, massive gap, and I don't think Toyota has managed to do that, which is good in my opinion. You guys can let me know down below. But if I'm going to be now taking a closer peek onto the side profile, I'm going to be pointing out the exact same thing I pointed out on the Lexus, is that this plastic trim I think is just such an eyesore. Now, it maybe doesn't look as bad because this color being coastal gray is obviously kind of a bluey gray, so it actually kind of has a nice contrast, I guess. I don't think I'd want this to be a matte black in this sense, but I think if it was just painted a different color, it would obviously give the vehicle a bit more of a luxurious look, especially spending the kind of dollar figure that you're spending to get into either one of these vehicles. Now, if we're looking at the styling of these though, I actually think the Venza has done a pretty cool job, and they have some contrast that the NX does as well, but in a different sense. And what I mean by that is that the trim around the windows is going to be in this chrome or silver color, which is going to be matching the wheels. Now, the NX had the same thing, except for it was gloss black, and that obviously matched the wheels as well. So I think the different contrast looks good, and I actually would prefer the color of this to be a bit different, because I actually think that the chrome contrast looks a lot better on different colors that the Venza is offered in. And if you guys have a different color, let me know which one you guys have down below in the comments. Now, if I'm going to be taking a closer look onto the rear of the Venza, you're going to obviously see that this is pretty sloped. The new vehicle that's going to be replacing this, called the Crown Signia, also does the same thing. It has this very interesting sloped back. I haven't seen one in person yet. Our first one's arriving in the next month or so. So I'm really excited to see, the differences between that and the Venza. However, I think they've done a really good job at kind of sloping this back and making it look, a little bit more sporty than say a regular RAV, which I think Toyota has done a very good job in excelling in styling for the Venza. I'm going to be talking more about the NX than I will the Venza. I think that this versus the Venza, or honestly any of our SUVs, Lexus has done a very, very good job at styling the rear end of the NXs. Now, I'm gonna be saying that on a couple different notes here. First one's going to be this full brake light that comes all the way across, stretching from one side to the next. I think that Lexus lighting is always going to be one of their strong suits. I think that the front end lighting looks great. I think the rear lighting looks great. You guys can let me know, what you guys think of that on any Lexus. But I think on this specific vehicle, it looks very, very busy, but also looks very, very elegant in the exact same way. And I think that that's something that people would actually pay for on a vehicle, because, appearance does matter on a car. So I'm gonna open up the trunk here, looking at the inside space. Now, the one thing I will say versus the Venza is that both of them, you actually load in pretty high. And I mean that by that is that this is actually pretty high up. Obviously, I'm a bit taller of a person, but this is almost at my waist height. So if you've got someone a bit smaller or small kids trying to load stuff into the vehicle, they actually may have maybe a little bit of difficulties putting stuff into, the backs of either one of these vehicles. Now, with that being said, both of these come configured as a 5-passenger vehicle. So it's got a 60-40 split, so you can throw the seats down completely flat and obviously throw stuff in, because both of them do have quite a bit of trunk space. An RX would obviously have a bit more on the Lexus side, and then on a Toyota side, a RAV4 is pretty much the same, or the Crown Signia, which is coming very, very soon. Now, taking a closer look onto the Venza, opening the trunk of this one, simple, it's gonna open with a push of the button just like the NX did. And the same thing I'm going to be saying is that it's still a pretty high loading height. So space is still great. I actually think the NX has a bit more cargo space than the Venza does, Both the seats will fold flat as a 60/40. Now, the only big difference I'm gonna note in the Venza versus the NX is that this one's gonna be coming with a JBL sound system, and your subwoofer is going to be located back here in the rear of the vehicle, which is our top trim and our top sound system you can put in one of our vehicles. Other than that though, I think the rears are pretty similar space-wise, got the same kind of capabilities for anything that you're gonna be putting into the rear ends of the trunk. I'm more interested to kind of see on the inside to see what you guys think versus the NX and the Venza, to see which one's more suitable for you, which one comes with more features. So let's go inside and take a closer look. All right guys, now let's take a closer peek onto the inside of the Venza. So I'm gonna kind of compare what's in this one that's very, very similar to the NX, but I'm gonna start with the obvious, what's not in here, and that's a sunroof. You would think that spending this kind of dollar figure, you'd be getting either a sunroof or a moonroof, but in this sense, you're actually getting neither. You need to move to a limited, so a fully loaded Venza to get a sunroof, which oddly enough doesn't even open. It simply has a feature that's going to frost the glass, which basically is a button that's up here, and it would basically show you, like a regular window, and then all of a sudden it goes from, translucent to transparent, which is a very interesting thing that they have done. I mean, obviously something that I wouldn't think is in a vehicle at that price point. Other than that though, looking at the inside of this vehicle, now it's very, very similar to the NX. The Venza has a bit less of what's actually going on inside. And I think that, what's going to be a very, very cool comparison will be comparing, this replacement vehicle, which is the Crown Signia, to an NX, because I think they're very, very, very close. So definitely stay tuned for one of those videos coming out in the near future. However, looking at a couple of things on the inside, a couple great standard things you're getting directly from the factory. You've got not only heated seats, but cooled seats for both your passenger and your driver, a wireless charger, which is situated up here behind your shifter. And that's one thing too I'm gonna note on, is that the shifters are different in both of these vehicles. You still have this larger shifter, which obviously comes up a bit higher up, versus what's gonna be in the NX, which I'm actually gonna be in favor for, and I'll show you that in just a couple of seconds. But other than that, this is very, very similar to obviously the first generation that the redesign of the Venza came out. A couple of things that they have added though. Your screen's now 12.3 inches in the middle here, which is nice. Dual zone climate control, your push button start down here. Now, this being a hybrid, obviously this is going to be a bit better on gas and a bit less noisy on the road versus the NX, but I have driven both. And I will say the NX is actually pretty quiet. So I think that Lexus has done a very, very good job catering a gas vehicle to actually being very, very quiet and very, very comparable to one of our hybrids. So kudos to Lexus for that. The number one thing I'm actually gonna say that I'm really not in favor for on this vehicle is going to be directly in front of me. You still have the old school needles, and all trim levels of Venza will get that, versus the NX, which I'll show you. They actually have a full digital tachometer, which I think most car brands are moving towards, and something that I think consumers, in this day and age kind of want in a vehicle. I don't think people still want these needles, but maybe you do. You guys can let me know if you guys are one of those people. Let me know, why you wouldn't want a new digital tachometer. Now, I'm gonna move over to the driver's side, for example here. The Venza is going to be one of our very few vehicles that come with power folding retractable side mirrors. Now, the NX does as well, and I think that's one feature that I would be paying for 100%. I think that it is one thing that, it kind of gives you peace of mind, that tells you just by visually looking at your vehicle that your car is locked, and I think that they've done a very, very good job to incorporate that on a mid-level trim level for a Venza. The second thing I'm going to say I'm in favor for is going to be your two-way memory seats. You've got a driver 1 and a driver 2 profile, and I think that's really, really helpful and useful for a family, or if I'm driving the vehicle, say versus my girlfriend driving the vehicle, obviously she's a bit shorter than I am, so it actually comes in and it makes it a lot easier to actually get in the vehicle and start driving. It's one less thing to kind of change or move around before you start a short grocery trip or a long trip up to the cottage, and I think Toyota has done a very, very good job at that. Now that's the inside of the Venza. I'm gonna take a peek into the NX350 and see what's different. Okay, now let's talk Lexus. So on the inside, first thing, there's a lot of red. Now, this isn't as dark as our cockpit red, which is offered on an XSE Camry or TRD Pro Tundra, Sequoia, or a Tacoma as well. However, I do like the shade and tone of this red, but I definitely think there is a lot of it. Now, if you guys have a red interior or a beige interior from Lexus over the typical black, I want to know why you guys decided to go that route. I definitely think it is actually kind of cool. You could get a red interior on a typical SUV, which you see a fair amount of on the road. So I actually think it is a really unique thing that Lexus has done to obviously give that option to any customers. Now, looking above me, yes, I'm very much so in favor of having a moonroof in this vehicle, and not just the look of a moonroof, but actually one that is functional and open. So kudos to Lexus for doing that. Now, looking on the inside, I think this versus the Venza, they've definitely, have a bit more going on the inside than the Venza. But I will say is that the way this one's laid out, a digital tachometer, the way that, your shifter feels here, the way the wireless charger sits, it's definitely in a more accessible area versus the Venza. I think that, you look at having features like cooled seats, heated seats, just like the Venza, but something so small, and I didn't even know this existed or any car even had this on the market. But if you look at your climate knobs here, it kind of has like blue onto the left and it moves all the way to right, but it's a full digital little screen here. And the blue turns into like a purple, which turns into like a pink, which then turns into a red. I think something like that, for me at least being a car guy, I think that's so cool to add such a small detail into this vehicle. Now, this being an F Sport 2 model, I'm not exactly too sure what this has that the 1 doesn't have or that the 3 doesn't have, because obviously I don't work at Lexus, but I did a little bit of research. I love the fact that you have paddle shifters. I think that's something really, really small, but something that people would pay for to have. And you actually cannot get a Venza with paddle shifters, oddly enough. But even the click of them, I don't know, I find it so satisfying. I've talked about some of the things I like about the car, a couple things I don't like about the car, and there's not many of them, but there's gonna be 2 of them. Number 1, your stop start button is going to be up here, and that's turn the car on and off. Now, I don't mind it because when you look down here, it kind of is confusing with a lot of the stuff going on, having a little storage compartment here and your charger here and all your buttons down here and your shift knob. However, I think that maybe I'd get used to it. We don't offer many vehicles other than the Tacoma, I think, and there must be another one that I'm trying to think of that I just can't think of on the top of my head, but I definitely could get used to that. However, I would want it down here because I think that having this circular button up here really shows, at least the driver, a lot of circles on the dash here. You have your drive mode selector here, you have both of the circles for your climate control knobs, and you have a circle for your volume knob in the middle. Now, that's one thing I will say I like though, is that this is black, it's not red, it's not a different color, so it doesn't have like an eyesore when you're looking where the volume knob is. I find that a lot of manufacturers are actually overcomplicating the insides of vehicle these days, and the volume knob is one of the top things they're confusing for some reason. On the Venza, it's actually a touch bar that you have to do. On the new Volkswagen, same thing. It's all that, touch technology, which I just don't think is as responsive as simply, a simple twisting knob. So I think they've done a good job there. Now, the only thing I'm going to say that I really do not like is going to be how to get in and out of these vehicles. You actually push this in, that unlocks your door. And the same thing when you get in the vehicle. It's not an actual handle that you pull, it's a little button on the back of the actual handle that you push, which then opens the door. Now, it's just something I'm not used to. Is it something I could get used to? Of course. I think it is interesting. I know that obviously it's nice because it alleviates a little space bar here that obviously you'd pull out and hit your leg. So I think that, that is more practical. You guys can let me know what you guys think about that, if that took a bit of adjusting on your end. However, that's the only thing only 2 things I'll actually be complaining about for the inside of the Lexus. All right, now looking onto the rear of the NX. So left my seat where it was as per usual, and I'm not overly spacious back here, but am I complaining about it? No. As you can see, the red theme has continued all the way into the back. Now, I'm definitely happy that they put black on the backs of these seats versus red, for example, because if you've got small kids or in like a car seat, for example, and their feet are kind of sitting up here, throwback to those days, obviously, but their feet were kind of be hitting the backs of these seats. And obviously, being a Lexus and spending this kind of money, I wouldn't obviously want to be getting the backs of these seats dirtied up, especially being like a red leather, which would be a bit more difficult, I think, to get out. So I think they've done a good job, and they've actually thought about, okay, which would actually make more sense for, you know, the everyday consumer. So good job to Lexus on that. Now, a couple other things I guess to note is that you still have that interesting door handle back here, which is fine. Again, something I could get used to. But other than that, you got a couple USB-C ports down here, no heated rear seats. You got a couple of vents here, which is nice. Obviously, got it's a nice hot day out, so I'm getting some nice AC my way. But other than that, that's kind of it. I actually think this versus the Venza, which I'm about to jump into, I actually have a bit more headspace in this because the roof of this isn't slanted and not sloped back like the Venza. But I will say is that you actually have, it's a bit deceiving. You actually have a good 2 inches between the top of the car and actually the top of the moonroof. So someone who's a bit taller, and obviously my hair sticks up a bit here, but this actually works for me back here. I actually think I'll be taking this over the Venza. I haven't sat in there yet. Rear space, I might be in favor of Lexus on this, and so far, I think Lexus is actually winning this comparison. Let's jump into the Venza. All right, let's talk Venza now. Into the rear seats. I'm actually kind of surprised. I have a lot more headspace than I thought I would back here. I don't think I've really ever sat in the back of a Venza, or if I have, it's been a while. So it's not too bad. The only thing I will be saying though is that it's very dark in here, especially coming from there. Now take the red seats out of the picture though for a second. It's just the simple having a sunroof or a moonroof. It opens up the car so much more, and I feel like most SUVs on the market, I feel like people would pay to have that. Maybe you don't need the leather, maybe you don't need the cooled seats or, you know, the JBL sound system or the biggest screens, but at least to have the moonroof, I think, is a really, really good feature, and consumers would actually buy that. But just like the NX, this doesn't have a whole lot going on down here. The only big differences I can see, obviously you still have the typical handle here, not the Lexus style handle, but obviously on that vehicle, your speakers, which are down here for me, are actually built up here on the actual door panel, which I think is actually a pretty good idea because it's gonna give you more sound, you know, a bit higher up. So I think the sound system will actually sound a bit better in that one versus this one that has JBLs. But other than that, couple climate control vents. Now, the Venza does not have 120 volts that the NX does. So if you are gonna be charging, say, a laptop up, or you need like an extender into like a wall outlet, the NX could do that for you. The Venza will not be able to do that for you. And the other thing I'm going to point out is above me is this little light here. Again, it's nice to have that in the rear, but the NX, it was kind of more towards the backs of these seats, which I actually think looked a bit better. It looks cleaner on the inside. And obviously with this vehicle not having a moonroof, it's kind of like an eyesore. It's the only thing along this entire headliner from the trunk all the way to the front, minus like your visors and stuff like that for driver and passenger. But I definitely think that's a little bit of an eyesore. That's just my opinion. You guys can let me know down below in the comments if you think otherwise. If you did like this video, please do not forget to hit like and subscribe so you do not miss any more of our future Toyota related content. And we'll check you guys out in the next video.